Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where you will discover how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Paul Guyan, the mastermind behind the Lead Machine, introduces you to trailblazers who inspire you to implement life-changing solutions and systems you can model to nurture your leads and get your offers seen by your ideal clients who will invest in themselves and you. Be sure you visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, tune in and get ready to transform your vision into reality.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyan, your host, the creator of you know what? I forgot what I created.
I love it.
I'm the founder. Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyan, your host, the founder of the Lead Machine Growth Show, the mastermind group and the marketing agency. And I'm here to help you tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. And no matter if you're just starting out or transitioning or taking your business to the next level, let's get this conversation started and turn your dreams into reality. There, I saved it.
You nailed it. It was great.
All right. Well, today we have Sheree Knowles, and we are going to be talking about transitioning from being an employee to an entrepreneur. So let's dive into this conversation. Sheree, welcome to the show. Thank you so much. Can you just tell us, you know what? I'm going to read your bio to get things started, if that's okay.
Sounds great. And good morning.
Okay. Good morning. Yes. It's early in Traverse City, Michigan.
It's early here in Powder Springs, Georgia as well, but the early bird gets the worm. So let's do it.
That's right. Let's do it. So Sheree Knowles is a talented executive with over 30 years of experience in HR leadership, DEI, and project management, which is an interesting combination. She's the founder of CHRO of HR Knowledge Sources, HRKS, a human resources and talent management firm, and a managing partner with Human Capital Consulting Consortium. That's H3C. Through her works, Sheree works with clients in various industries, including nonprofits, government, technology, higher education, supply chain management, logistics and distribution, and professional services. So again, Sheree, welcome. That's quite a mix of companies that you work with. You know, I worked with in the logistics industry for about 15 years before I moved over to another company. And it's a very interesting and dynamic. There's a lot going on in supply chain these days, isn't there?
Very much so. Especially since the pandemic, in terms of just supply chain issues and companies competing for resources. Very interesting.
Yeah. So I chose from a lot of different topics that you can obviously talk about, but one of them is near and dear to my heart, which is transitioning or being an entrepreneur, but while also working a full-time job and then moving over into that entrepreneurial space full-time. So can you tell us about how you decided to do that and why you decided to do it and what were some of the challenges that you faced?
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting. I think people who shift into owning their own businesses often have an origin story. So it's the how you got started. What was the compelling motivator to do this crazy thing?
Mhm.
And for me, I had worked in corporate for about 20 years and have reached a really high level in my career as the head of HR for a professional services firm. And honestly, Paul, I was unhappy. I was trying to figure out what the next would be. And I made a very courageous decision, supported by my husband, to leave and to branch out and start my own firm. Now, it sounds great. It sounds like a fairy tale, but it wasn't. I literally didn't know the first thing about running a company. I knew HR, that's my specialty. And I helped startups. I worked for startups before, but I had no idea how to be a business owner. And so I learned along the way. And through some successes as well as some lessons, here we are today, celebrating over 10 years of being in business.
Wow, nice. And so how did you manage that, becoming, not knowing anything about business? I mean, I've worked with startups too, and
Mhm.
been on the executive team, and that really helped, because we had some advisors and things that helped us along the way. But there was some seed money,
Mhm.
that really helped. But how did you come to, understand how to become a business owner? Because a lot of employees are really great at HR or IT or some others, making baskets or whatever it might be. And they become the technician. They're the technician and that everything revolves around them, but they really don't run the business very well. And that's the key to, I think, being successful as an entrepreneur is running the business. And maybe you love being the technician, but there's other things that have to happen. So how did you find that out? How did you figure it out? Did you get help or did you just make a bunch of mistakes and and it worked out?
I can say yes and yes and yes. So all of the
I
above,
know.
right?
Yeah.
The first thing that I did was I scheduled coffee and lunches with people who were already doing it.
Mm,
And so I'm in the professional services arena, right? So human resources, human capital consulting. And I found people who were successful at running a coaching practice or running an HR consulting firm or a training and development firm. And I literally took a notebook, sat in a restaurant, proverbially at their feet, and just asked a bunch of questions. And I still have that notebook to this day,
mm,
almost 11 years later, and said, what works, what doesn't work, what's the first step, what's the second step, and they were so generous,
mhm.
and so willing to pour into me and help me, which later, fast forward now, fuels my passion because like you, I love working with startup organizations. I love working with people who have a concept or they are starting a business, but they haven't made their first dollar. Like that's my space, my passion, but it's because people poured into me. So I just asked a lot of questions, good questions, and then probably not so good questions, but that's
Yeah.
what.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes and modeling success is a success principle that is taught by so many of the personal development and success gurus like Brian Tracy and those people. And so those are really effective ways to make it to help shortcut. Did you enlist a coach? Did you do any coaching or get any coaches? Or
Not at
was
the
it just a
very beginning. So I would say not a paid coach. I work with and ask the questions of, the people who were my informal mentors. And once I started making money, bringing in revenue, then I invested in a coach. I also invested in a mastermind group so that
Mhm.
I could be around like-minded individuals because in my community, in my growing up, we didn't have a lot of entrepreneurs. And so I needed to just understand that CEO mindset in a different way than I imagined it to be.
Yeah, having a mastermind group is an amazing. I run a mastermind group, and I'm also part of a mastermind group,
Mhm.
and I have a coach. But again, the magic thing there is once you started making money. I mean, sometimes you just have to pull out your credit card and do some things that are, especially when it comes to infrastructure,
Mhm.
and things that you have to deliver service or to get clients. So, what were some of the challenges that you had there, or did you have some seed money from the startup to get going?
So I'll tell you a really quick story. I had $1,800. So to specifically answer the question, but this is how
Yeah.
this went. When I worked in corporate about 6 years before I exited, I completed a training. I went to Birmingham, Alabama. I facilitated a class for a friend of mine who works for a global company. And when I came home, I was all excited. I felt like I had done this amazing thing. And I said, okay, now what? My husband, Mark, says, well, you have to send them a bill. That's my first lesson for entrepreneurs. You have to actually bill for your work.
Get paid.
So
Yeah.
right, you gotta get paid. So I created an, invoice off of an Excel template, and it looks so boring, Paul. Like, I, of course, didn't know what I was doing. So I made up a logo, I made up a name, the Knowles Consulting is what it was called, and I put on there payable to me, Sheree Knowles. Send it off. I get this check for about $1,800. It is made out to Knowles Consulting. The company does not exist. So I literally cannot cash this check.
Yeah.
So put it down, intending to reach out to my friend at some point in time. But, I'm like, I'll do it later. 6 years go by. I have a new job. I'm in this new organization. I'm miserable. I leave. So I'm at home, and this is true story. I am literally trying to figure out, okay, what the next step will be. And I can't sit still. I'm just one of those people. So I'm just doing things. So I'm cleaning out a junk drawer. Everybody has that junk drawer, especially like ours is in the kitchen. Cleaning out the junk drawer. Lo and behold, 6 years later, here's that $1,800 check. So called the
Wow.
accounting department, explained what happened. They said, send the check back today. We have been carrying that check on our books for the last 6 years, waiting for you to cash it. That's unheard of. I
Yeah.
sent it back, got a check in my real name, and started my company.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's some lessons there. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
What it's so easy to set up an LLC these days, and you really want to have one. You can do it for like $50, I think. In Michigan, it's $50 and $25 a year to renew it. Uh, it's so easy. You can have an LLC. Then you can, if you don't like the name that you chose, you can do a DBA and you can just add that on to your LLC. And it really helps with the protection, but it also, you really want to get paid. You want your company to get paid. You don't want and then pay yourself,
That's
which
correct.
is another tip that young entrepreneurs need to learn about. So, what were some of the, besides that getting paid the first time, what were some of the other challenges that you had, transitioning?
Finding a client, that was probably one of my first challenges because it's interesting being in HR. I have been in HR again for, at that point, 20 years, and have a big network of people, but I didn't know how to ask for work. I did not know how to like present what I thought I was offering at the time. Uh, and so getting past the mindset of, not feeling like you were begging people like for an opportunity, and getting to a place for myself where I realized that I had something to offer. It wasn't that I was begging for a shot. I actually legitimately had something that they could use. And so that was a huge aha for me. But it took probably 6 to 9 months for me to really get past the nerves to be able to promote myself.
Yeah, and then there's the, knowing how to articulate the value
Yes,
that you provide, uh, is often very difficult for entrepreneurs, which is it's helpful to have a network of people that you can have a sounding board and say, well, this is what I say when I go on a sales call. How does that sound to you? Or this is I'm afraid to go on a call. What do you think I should say? so
exactly. Exactly.
so yeah, it does take a while, but really, a lot of times the entrepreneur, is focused on the thing that they provide rather than the transformation or the problem that they solve. And so, focusing on the problem that you solve is tends to lead you to the sweet spot, don't
It
you?
does, and, I love that you say that because, uh, when I am working with, green and growing entrepreneurs, like the startups, probably very similar to you, they are really, really focused on getting their website together, getting this together, but they don't think about the fact that you actually have to have a solution or a service or a product that you're willing to put in the market for someone to buy, and, my advice always is to make the first dollar. Like the website is great, this is great, your Instagram is great. But if you solely focus on that for the first year, you're not going to make any revenue, and you might get frustrated and decide to quit. So make a dollar.
Yeah, exactly. And just a lot of times it's you have to be a consultant and
Yes.
and and just go out there and do one-on-one services and provide the service and and then get paid. That helps you gain some momentum, get some confidence under you.
Yes.
And then, but that doesn't scale very well. So what did you do to discover how you can scale so that you can say, okay, well, these are this is my system, this is my process, this is how I do HR, or this is how I help people with human capital. But it can't be all me, or else I can only handle maybe 10 clients. But I need to really, the numbers mean I need to have 100 clients. So how did you face that, and how did you come up with a way to scale yourself?
So I knew in the very beginning, after I received the $1,800 check, I knew that I didn't want to be a solopreneur. Like I really wanted to have people on a team and to grow a company. I didn't know what it was going to look like, and I am blown away by where we are 10 years later. So I didn't have that vision. I just knew it needed to be more than me. So I set the name of the company up. I didn't call it Knowles Consulting or Sheree Knowles Incorporated. I called it HR Knowledge Source because I felt like in the future, people would be more apt to want to work for HRKS than Knowles Consulting or Sheree Knowles Incorporated. So that was an aha for me early on. And to your point, I very quickly realized that I had finite capacity. Now, I can do a lot of things and I have a lot of capacity, but at
Yeah.
some point there's a wall, right? So I have finite capacity. Two things that I did. One, I outsourced the stuff that I wasn't very good at and then didn't enjoy, which is like bookkeeping, as an example. Don't
Yeah.
know. That's not my favorite thing to do. I do it in a pinch, but I don't want to be a bookkeeper. I want to be a CEO. I also quickly outsourced marketing. And not because I'm not creative, but I don't have the stamina or energy that marketing requires over time, and especially in digital media. And then the next thing that I did was I actually found other HR consultants. So people who were similar to me, wanting to do consulting work, who were willing to do it on a 1099 basis. And that became really the framework and the genesis for the whole company. The way we're structured, we have a lot of 1099 consultants who work for us, but they also do their own thing. When we have business, I can expand. When we don't have a lot of clients, I can retract and I just have a handful of W 2 employees. So that's what I did, and that has been our model since then.
And that's interesting. You're hitting the mark on a lot of these questions because you've obviously, like all of us, we've made mistakes and we said, oh boy, that's not the way to go. So
Exactly.
building a team is an amazing can be frustrating and can be amazing, uh, giving you freedom to do and lead. So how did you figure out how to get people that shared your vision and your values, which are super important to me? I don't want to have people that treat my clients or my vendors or my other fellow contractors or virtual assistants. I want them to be treated in a certain way, and in my case, a Christian way.
Mhm.
Uh, and so how did you figure out how to vet people to bring into your fold and say, I mean, I've been burned. I'm sure you've been burned. How do you come up with a formula to get people in that you know, like, and trust that are going to do the job that you want to have done?
So I wish I could say that I had a perfect system in the beginning. That would not be true. We are also a faith-based company, and I let that really guide how I met people, how I interviewed people, how I considered them to come into HRKS. But in the beginning, I made a lot of mistakes, and one was probably two. One was bringing someone in that was also it lacked integrity, who was looking to grow her own consulting firm. And thank God my clients called and said, "Hey, I just wanted you to know that this person is talking to me not about HRKS, but about their own company." And because I wouldn't have known, like, I'm a trust you, I trust you until
Yeah.
otherwise, right?
Right.
And so that was one very important lesson. And so it required me or prompted me to start having these conversations on the front end. Like, this is the parameter. Here are my expectations, clear or not clear. The second mistake that I made was bringing people in who had an employee mindset.
Mm.
You cannot be in a consultative practice and have an employee mindset. You have to have an entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial mindset, or it doesn't work very well. One example of that would be a consultant who's on board who is servicing a client and they are fully invested in the client. They treat the client as if it is their W-2 employer, and they're waiting for the client to, like, if they were in corporate, tell them what to do, set goals. When you are a consultant, like, you're the subject matter expert, you're the thought leader. They've hired us to come in and tell them what they should be thinking about or doing.
Mhm.
And so I made that mistake a few times in the beginning of hiring people who just had the wrong mindset, and some can make the shift and some cannot.
Yeah, wow, that's really important. What about the mindset that shift that you have to have? I guess it's the same thing. When you're going from an employee to an entrepreneur, the same goes for you.
That's right.
You and one of the things that I learned from one of my mentors, Alina Vincent, she did the same thing. She transitioned and she from education, and she loved photography, and she went and she went to serve everybody. But one of the things that she had forgotten, that she went, aha, we have all these skills that we've built up over time
Mhm.
uh, in the corporate world. And then when we become an entrepreneur, we go, "Oh my gosh, I've never done this before. I don't have the expertise." And then one day it's going to dawn on you, I hope, that wait a minute, I've been going through this the whole time. I have all these skills already. I just have to package them in a different way. Is that the mindset shift that you had to make that helped you along the way?
Absolutely. And it's, you used the word confidence earlier. It is knowing your value, both as the CEO and as the company that's providing a tangible service to clients. You have to know your value, and those skills can transfer. It's interesting. So I talk to people about this mindset shift from employee to entrepreneur. And there are a few things that I think that are, like, I want to highlight that are kind of different. So when you're an employee, Paul, it is really, you're self-focused. You are like the talent, if you will, inside
Mhm.
your organization. And so it is all about you. It's all about what you can produce, what you can do for that company. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to look outwardly. You should be client focused. It's not about you. It's about the client, and how do you best serve them so that they can reach their desired goals. The other thing that I think is different is when you're an employee, generally speaking, I know some of the younger generations don't stay in a company very long, but generally speaking, you're there for the long haul, if you will. So you're making a long-term investment. They're investing in you, you're investing in the organization. And there's a level of consistency, a level of security in that. But when you're an entrepreneur and you're working, especially in my business as a consultant, you have to be invested in your clients, but you are not ingrained in their culture. I tell all of my consultants, like, we're guests in the client's home. We don't live there. So you're going to be there for a period of time, but not forever. It is not a forever situation. And then the last thing that I think is really important is when you're an employee, and I think this is really critical, you can have a steady in year over year. You're getting performance goals. You know what you're supposed to be doing. You're going to do those things in that 6 to 12 month period. Then you get a new set of goals, but it's steady over time. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to make an impact right away. So you've got to make a big impact, but you don't have 12 months to do it. You probably have 3 months or 6 months, depending on the engagement. So you've got to be able to move quickly. You've got to be able to pivot. And that's a mindset shift. It's a behavior change that a lot of people struggle to make.
Yeah, getting those quick gains
Mhm.
is what's going to get you to continue on with a client over time. You have to get those. So you have to be good at project management, and also
Yes.
seeing, okay, being able to look at their situation and give them advice on some low hanging fruit that can get them some wins in the beginning. Which exactly, if you have an employee mindset, you might not even think of that,
No,
because
you're
there's
typically waiting for somebody to give you something because that's how we
yeah,
are trained in corporate. So
yeah,
nothing bad about that, but that is just how the corporate ecosystem is set up. But as an entrepreneur, if you're just waiting for the phone call, waiting for the email, then people are literally missing out on your value. So you're missing out on opportunity, but those folks, they're hiring somebody to do the work. So they're missing out on your talent if you're just sitting at home waiting.
gosh, that's a great point. So going back, I love how we're focusing on this from and to.
Mhm.
While you're an employee, but and you said there was that 6 year waiting period. During those 6 years, you were thinking, I want to get out of this, or I'm ready to do something else, but I'm not really ready financially. Maybe there are some things I have to do mindset wise, but also I have to serve my employer at this point. So how do you ethically create your new business while still working full time? Is that something
Yeah.
that you've encountered?
So personally, no, because I literally had no idea that I was going to become an entrepreneur when I was working for that company and
Yeah.
just kind of in a state of misery. But
Yeah.
I work with a lot of people who have a full time gig and they're trying to really launch their baby, their business. And my suggestions are twofold. One, um, never do your work on an employer's time. So if you are working and your hours are making this up 9 to 5, then you do your work, your business before that or after that or on the weekend. But never do that because that is going to compromise your integrity, number one. But it also um, limits or reduces your ability to serve both in your best. You can't be your highest and best self if you are trying to do two things at the same time like that. The second
Yeah.
thing that I tell people is every time you get a check, because you're going to get a paycheck on a steady basis, whatever frequency that might be, make a decision how much money you're going to pull out of that and put it away for your business so that when you're ready to come out full time, you have that nest egg, you have money in reserves that you can use. Growing up, I don't know about you, but when I was a little girl, we used to have like the Christmas fund. And so you would take your allowance and put a part of it like in the Christmas fund. So around Christmas time, you could go buy presents for people and all the things. So think of it that way. Like it's a rainy day, like I'm going to launch my business fund. And every time you get paid, just move some money over and don't touch it. That will set you up for success really quickly. The other thing is you have to determine your pace. How fast are you trying to shift from corporate to being a CEO? If it is a slower pace, then you can moderately take your time. But if you're thinking, like, if I had known, like, this is it, I can't wait to get out of here and really do my own thing, then you're going to have to be really aggressive about how much time you invest. That might mean you're sacrificing some time in the evening or weekends with your family, but you're doing it for a reason. It's an investment. But you have to make a determination how fast you want to go.
Yeah, that's really important. The pace. One of my guests, she told me that she built her business 1 hour at a time. And so she took an hour a day and she worked on, and she had to be very, very intentional about the things that would move the needle in that direction, because she was super successful in a similar kind of role. I think it was in sales. Uh, and she had a hundred locations that she was responsible for, and I believe it was a sales group. Uh, and but she didn't have that extra time, but she had the money, and she banked it away, but she worked on it 1 hour at a time and
Mhm.
per day. But she was very, very dedicated to that. So spending a little bit of time every day, maybe an hour, maybe a half hour, maybe 15 minutes, and maybe it's 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes at lunch,
Mhm.
and then how many is that? 30 and 30 minutes at night.
30 minutes.
Sometimes you have to do that, and you have to be patient because you're not going to knock them dead every single day. And it's like next week I'm going to be on my own. It might be next year or 5 years down the road.
That's right.
So it does take some patience.
Yeah,
So
and there's no right or wrong way to do that, right? It's really your race, your pace, your race. Like, is you get to decide that.
yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who's considering going out? They're an employee now, and we've talked about a lot of these things already. But what advice would you give to someone who's seeking to be that next level, that second act?
I would say understand your why. Like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to become an entrepreneur? Why now? So sometimes it's the right situation or the right decision, but not the right time. And so you have to understand your why. So why and why now? And what am I going to do when it gets hard? I don't think that uh,
Hmm.
people think about that on the front end. And, you're a project manager, I'm a project manager. We always think about the risk ahead of time so that you have a plan in case it happens. Um, you need to have a plan in case it happens. So if you don't get a client or bring in enough revenue in 6 months, what's the backup? Like, what is your plan? Because it's going to get hard. This is not for the faint of heart. If this was easy, being an entrepreneur, CEO, like way more people would be doing it. So you've got to understand that you need a plan B. And it doesn't mean going back to corporate. It just means you've got a strategy around that. The other thing that I think is important that people underestimate how much energy it requires to be able to become an entrepreneur or to maintain being an entrepreneur. That is important. You've got to, I always tell people that time is finite. Like, you cannot get more time. You can't renew time,
Hmm.
but you can certainly renew energy. And understanding that those two things are important. So, what are you going to do when it gets hard? And how much energy, mindset, and physical energy do you have to invest?
Yeah, and do you have any tips on ways to re-energize yourselves, and some maybe some sort resources or whatever for that help with the mindset?
Absolutely. We've talked about this before, but connect with people who are already
Yeah.
doing this. So a mastermind group, a business roundtable, whatever it might be, but you need to be in the presence and company of people who are trying to go in the same direction as you. Because a lot of times people who work in corporate America and they love being in corporate America, they don't understand entrepreneurship. And so they may not be as supportive because they simply just don't understand this crazy thing you're trying to do. So find some people. The second thing is to study as much as you can, learn as much as you can. You've got this amazing show, this podcast that you do. Um, it's free. Like, download some resources and try to understand and figure out where you could use some help. You're not going to day one be able to outsource bookkeeping unless you just have the money saved, but know that that's a plan, right? So have an idea or a roadmap of what you want to do. And then the final thing is understand that when you're ready to give up, and I truly believe this, when you get to that point where you're like, okay, I'm just going to throw in the towel and go back to corporate America, it is often darkest before dawn. So
Yeah.
hold tight, because that means something good is coming right around the corner. But if you give up too soon, you will never know how successful you could have been.
Yeah, that reminds me of a book called, and one of my experiences, or many experiences, is called 3 Feet from Gold. And it's
Mhm.
a story of a person who was mining for gold, and they had that darkest hour, and they ended up selling the thing for, pennies on the dollar, and 3 feet further, the person who took over struck it rich, struck the gold.
That's
And
right.
so that's why it's so important to have a why, a really powerful why. Like, one of my experiences was we were having uh, a summit called the Think and Grow Rich Summit, which is
Mhm.
celebrating Napoleon Hill's 75 years of the book Think and Grow Rich. And our team, we had some poison on our team, and they totally sabotaged it. And we were working with the Napoleon Hill Foundation to put this event on, and we had to cancel it. And we told them we're 3 feet from gold here, but they didn't understand. They were interested in other things, and so we regrouped. We got rid of the poison, and we held the event in about 6 months later, and it was a smashing success. We had 20 top level speakers who were all were influenced by Napoleon Hill's teachings, and it was just we couldn't believe that we actually pulled it off because we went down that rabbit hole that sometimes it takes to go down to get all those things done, to get the support you need. But we knew that we had a powerful why. We had a powerful why, and we told people we were going to have this. So when you publicize your goals, it's like burning your boat. Got no retreat.
It's instant accountability, Paul, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a runner, and for those of us who might be listening who run, that at some point you hit the proverbial wall,
Yeah.
but you don't stop running on the course. You may walk, you may, walk slowly, but you never. And so that's the whole idea. Like if you hit a wall, you can penetrate it. You can go around it. You can go through it. You can go over it, but just don't stop.
Right. Never, ever, ever give up.
No, don't.
Now you can pivot.
Yes.
You can change direction. And so when you start out and you think, oh, this is how it's going to be lovely and all this and this and that. And then you go, oh, well, that's not what I wanted.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm working 80 hours a week instead of 40. I like to work 33. So one of my mentors says, you need to decide how much time you want to put into your business. And then even from the beginning, start that way and build your business around that idea. So you might have to get those people sooner,
That's right.
those extra resources sooner. And your schedule is not this big. It's this big.
That's
And
correct.
so when you let people in to where you want them to be.
Exactly. Exactly. It's interesting. I just graduated from the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program.
Mm.
And one of the very first things they asked us, and this I think is very interesting because I hadn't thought about it myself, what's your exit strategy? My exit strategy, I'm still trying to grow. I'm trying to scale. I'm trying to do all the things, right? And having to think about that and really create an exit strategy has given me so much direction and fueled what I'm doing right now. Because now I know in 10 years or 12 years, this is where I want to be in my business. And everything I'm doing today, right, helps me get to that. But I had never really thought about that. And so if you're a young entrepreneur, you're literally just getting started. It's probably hard to think about what it could look like at the end, but that's my challenge to you to do that. Paul, I'm challenging you to do that as well because it
Yeah.
was eye opening.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just naming your company, not yourself,
Yes.
is a good starting point. Even if you haven't gone through all that thought process yet, name yourself. So name your company in a way that it can be sold.
That's right. That's right.
Or it can be
The
handed
way
off to
people
your
will want to
children.
work for you too and
Yeah.
to be sold. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. We're nearing the end of our time here, Sheree. What are 3 things, and we've gone over a lot of them. I think you might have just outlined them. What are 3 things our listeners can do today to put these ideas into action about coming from an employee to being an entrepreneur with an exit strategy?
Yeah. So I would say top 3 things. One, write it down. You'd be amazed at what happens to your brain when you write your goals down. So write it down, even if it feels far fetched, like it's just a kind of a pie in the sky idea. write it down anyway, because when you can go back and look at it and repeat it out loud, your brain, one sees it, your eyes see it, but it tells your brain, you hear it when you say it out loud, and it becomes more of a reality for you. So write it down, repeat it, say it out loud. I'm big into affirmation, so I like writing those down, repeating those as well, but write it down. 2, tell somebody else. Like, share your goal, share your business vision. I call it a big, hairy, audacious goal, right?
Yeah.
Share your BHAG with someone, because you'd be surprised at how good it feels to be able to share your idea with someone that is not just percolating in your own brain.
Mhm.
And then the third thing we've talked about this is don't do this by yourself. Don't do it in a silo. There's
Yeah.
so many resources out there and so many people who are willing to help, but be on the same journey that you're on. So don't do it by yourself, because being an entrepreneur, it's a lonely thing if you're sitting in your home trying to figure all this out by yourself. So get connected. So those are my 3 tips.
Awesome tips too. I have a wife, and my wife is my accountability partner. And boy, does she convict me sometimes, because she challenges me to say, "Well, what did you think about this? Well, what are you going to do about that? Well, how do people know that this?" And so it's really good to have someone like that as a sounding board.
Mhm.
So
That's
it's
right.
great. It's great when it's your partner. Uh, but yeah, you should always look for someone who's either done it or can help you be accountable, hold you
That's right.
accountable. So, as also, so how can people connect with you? I know that you have a podcast. Can you tell us about that and how people can connect with you? We'll obviously have things in the show notes about your socials, but go ahead and let us know about that.
Yeah, we have a podcast called The Radical Edge of HR.
Mhm.
And we use this platform for a couple of things. We are stretching the mindset around certain HR topics. So we're the group that will go there and give you a different opinion or a different way to think about something, and really stretch the paradigm. So it's called the radical edge for a reason, because we get right to the radical edge. And typically HR people are more compliant and we are
Yeah.
less. So the we talk about what it is like for clients to work with us, but we also talk to people who are trying to start their own businesses. So it's a great platform. We offer it once a month. We go live on LinkedIn. The other thing you can
Mhm.
do is connect with me on LinkedIn. You can connect to our pages on LinkedIn. We have HRKS LLC, so you can check us out on LinkedIn and stay connected. And then we also have a staffing division, because that's our growth opportunity for this year, is to really grow our staffing division. And so we also have a page, and it's called the Recruitment Alliance. You can also follow us on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Cherie. I appreciate you coming today. And as we sign off, remember, faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal until the next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyan and Sheree Knowles. God bless you. Thanks for coming today.
So thank you. This is great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyan, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.